Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Then stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. Let them tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Act like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Robbie. My wife, Olivia, who's not here, is actually still in the hospital. You can check back on some of our previous videos that we've done just recently, kind of explaining a little bit about why she's there in the hospital. Today, I'm just kind of here to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on and basically why she's not coming home. Olivia really wishes that she could be here for this video, but obviously she's still there in the hospital, and so today it's just me updating you guys, but hopefully we'll get her in the next one. It's been pretty tough. She went in last Tuesday on the 9th of February, and it is now the 19th, so she's literally been in there for 10 days, going on 11, and we never expected it to be this long, or for her to be in there this many days, and for it to be as tough of a journey as it has been so far for her. Don't get me wrong, we knew that the recovery was going to be hard, but I think there's a lot of things that have happened recently that just have made it way more difficult than it really should have been, and it's been really, really tough as someone on the outside to just sit back and watch her go through all of it and have to do it by herself because of COVID and the restrictions that the hospital has with visitors. I'll just start off with a brief recap. Olivia had some kidney issues she's had her whole life. This past Tuesday, she had a surgery. It's one of a few that she's had, but this is the biggest one that she was scheduled for, where basically they were to go in and reconstruct the kidney in a way that would help relieve a lot of the issues that she's been having her whole life, right? So you have your kidney, then you have the tube called the ureter that connects to the bladder, and the kidney drains all your waste into the bladder through that tube. The intent was to have the kidney take that ureter from where it usually is, that tube, chop it, and move it to the bottom of the kidney to help the kidney drain a lot better. The surgery was intense. Usually any of the surgeries that she's had so far have been either like robotic or really minimally invasive, but this one, they literally had to go in and cut in her flank right here, cut through muscle, cut through a lot of nerves to get to the kidney, and we found out after the fact that the doctor actually had to take out a rib in order to have enough room to do the procedure the way that he needed to do it. So there's been a lot of pain. On top of that, the surgery lasted like 4 hours long, which I think originally it was supposed to be like a 2.5 to 3.5 hour surgery. And for those of you who don't know, there's a ton of nerves that are connected and intertwined in that area. And when you take out that rib, it causes so much pain. And Olivia has definitely been feeling that non-stop since she's been there. Obviously, they have to cut through some of the muscles that are there as well. So they've sliced right through a lot of her abdominal muscles to get in there, which is really, really painful. And on top of that, after you have a surgery, in general, it's really hard to use some of the muscles in that general area, but some of those abdominal muscles, I mean, those are some of the most commonly used and frequently used muscles that we do in every day-to-day activity, from stabilization of your body to walking to sitting up, laying down, you know, all these different things. And now that's affected her mobility and her comfort level and just all these different kinds of things. She's definitely had it really rough. On top of the fact that it was a 4-hour surgery, she's had a lot of setbacks that weren't entirely even up to her. There's been a lot of mishandling of things. For example, the first night that she was in the hospital, right after the surgery, they pulled her out of the operating room and took her back into the recovery room. And obviously she's in a ton of pain. As she was requesting the medicine, the nurses were refusing to give her the amount of medicine that she needed. In every profession, you have people that are really good at their job and you have people that are not so great at their job. And I think, you know, unfortunately, some of the people involved in Olivia's recovery were people on the latter side of the spectrum. For some reason, they just wouldn't give her the amount of medicine that she needed and were saying things to her like, oh, well, of course you're in pain. You just had surgery. To me, that makes zero sense at all. It was really, really frustrating to hear those things, and then to hear Olivia just crying constantly because she wasn't getting the care that she needed was really aggravating, and it was so heartbreaking. On top of that, she had another nurse a couple nights later who she called for repeatedly to get her medicine, and he would say, "Don't worry, I got you, I'll come get it." but then he never even came, and she called multiple times throughout the night, and so that whole night she didn't get any medication. And there's a lot of these different things that have been going on, and I don't know if it's been just miscommunication between teams of nurses and doctors and things like that, or what it has been, but it's definitely been unacceptable and has caused a lot of unnecessary pain for Olivia. It's just very, very hard to sit back and watch because of COVID. I'm not allowed to go in there. Nobody's allowed to be in there with her and visit her, and so it's just been really hard because there's nobody there to advocate for her and to stick up for her and to make sure that she's getting the care that she needs, because ultimately at the end of the day, nobody's going to care for your family the way that you are going to care for your family. And I think because of that, there's been a lot of setbacks in Olivia's recovery that have prevented her from making as quick a recovery as she originally would. The hard part too is, we started to see her improve a little bit as she finally started to get some of the meds and get on a schedule and different things like that. She had a couple nurses who have been amazing. She started to get a little bit better, but then what happened is she started getting these crazy pains that the pain meds were not treating. And she was getting these sharp pains that would start, they would kind of follow her incision, but they would start in her back and shoot around to the front. She described it as like a shock wave of pain that would come, and it would like be really intense, and then it would fade, and then it would still be hurting a lot, and then it would be followed by like a burning sensation. So we're like, okay, well maybe that's nerve pain, like nerve damage, just we don't know what's going on, but we got to figure out a way to treat it. And it would get to the point where she would just be screaming out in pain, unable to move and unable to breathe because the pain was so bad, and there was nothing anybody could really do. It was hard for me to see all this stuff happening because she was starting to make little improvements, and then she would have these setbacks where she would just get in these crazy instances of pain that just couldn't be controlled. And on top of that, the doctors were trying different things here and there, but I feel like there was not enough exploration or not enough trial in figuring out how to tackle the pain and how to make her comfortable. Because to be honest with you, she had been at a 10 out of 10 pain since day one all the way up through now, and finding very little relief, and that's been really hard to watch, and it's been really hard for her. I mean, you guys saw the Valentine's Day video, and she was starting to feel a little bit better that day. She had definitely been making improvements, but that night is when she really started to get those pains that they just wouldn't stop. At one point, I was like trying to document and see if I could get any information to help the doctors, and I would be FaceTiming her, and she would tell me about these pains, but I never saw anything. And I remember when I saw her while we were FaceTiming get one of them, it was traumatizing. I mean, I couldn't do anything but just sit back and watch and try and yell for a doctor through a FaceTime because she was screaming in pain and couldn't push the button. And I just keep picturing her face and what was happening when I was FaceTiming her, and she was having those pains. And I just felt so helpless. I couldn't do anything but scream for a doctor and just yell as loud as I could through FaceTime. So I'm just watching her by herself. But it was terrifying. It was hard to see Olivia not be her typical Olivia self. She's always full of positivity. She's always full of just joy and happiness. And what I was seeing was the farthest thing from that, and it was really hard for me to not be there. Ultimately, she's still not home. We don't know when she's going to be home, and that's what's really hard. They finally ended up taking a little more initiative and did some x-rays on her chest, some x-rays on her abdomen, and they found out that she has a bunch of air in her abdomen. They did a CT scan as well to see if maybe there was anything wrong with some of the other organs in her body that were affecting that and causing some of that air. And they decided that it was just normal air from the operation. The only issue is, in order to get rid of that, you need to get up and you need to walk and you need to kind of get your body moving. It helps get the bowels woken up and moving, your digestive system, and helps move that air around in your body to kind of absorb and dissipate. But Olivia was in so much pain that she could not get up and walk. It was almost like she had just been put back a few steps because of the first night that she's playing catch up on the pain meds and just wasn't able to get up and move around like she really needed to. It was just craziness. She ended up having to drink a bunch of fluid and stuff for the CT scan, and Olivia has a hard time doing that. She ended up throwing all that stuff up. So not only is she in pain, she's having these sharp pains, she can't move, can't really breathe, and now she's throwing up because she has to drink this nasty stuff in order to have the CT done. We've been doing our best to just try and send all the positive energy that way and you know, pray really hard that we can get some things to fall our way and go right. But it just hadn't been that way. And some nurses were giving us a lot of help, some doctors were giving us help, but then there were ones who were not giving us help, who were not doing their job really well, and that just makes things so much harder. You know, she's just in so much pain she can't even get up and walk. The sharp pains were happening even when she's asleep, just laying completely still. You know, I'm watching over FaceTime as she's sleeping just to make sure that she's doing okay, and she would jolt awake in pain and just start screaming because of these lightning bolts of pain. I don't even know how else to describe it. Finally, I get a hold of a doctor that will try a different prescription, and so they just prescribed something for nerve pain, and those started to help a little bit, but the problem is she's on so many of these painkillers now that it's also stopping her up, so she can't go to the bathroom, and we need her to go to the bathroom. So there's just all this different things, and I don't know, guys, it's just been really hard, you know, to see the one that you love suffer like that and you not being able to do anything or be there. It's a really hard thing to go through, you know, especially when the person that you're watching suffer no longer looks like the person you love and that you're used to seeing. It's really hard. Yeah. But she started to have some physical therapists come in to see if they can help her work on her abdominal strength, to get her up walking, to kind of help her move around, see if they can get that air around. But I'm nervous because now the PT is saying that because she's been in the hospital for so long and not really being able to move, that she's weakened those muscles enough to the point where she might not even come home, but that she'll have to go to like a physical rehabilitation center after the hospital. Ultimately, like, I understand why, but at the same time, it's like, no, she needs to be home. She needs to be home with family. She needs to be home in a comfortable place. Like, I'll do whatever I can. But just getting the news that she might not even be coming home, it's just like heart-wrenching. It's just really hard for me to sit back continually without any updates, without knowing what's going on, without being there and being able to hold her hand, and without being able to talk to the doctors myself. It's a really difficult thing to do, and I don't wish it upon anybody. It's been really hard. We're gonna get through it. We still don't know when they're planning on sending her home, or I guess to a rehab facility. We don't know. We're gonna try and make sure that we can get her home, but you know, she's scared and she's having a really hard time, and it's been really rough. I just really appreciate all of the support and love that you guys have given to her and to me. I mean, I get a lot of messages from you guys too, asking how I'm doing, which is really nice of you guys, and I'm very grateful. We're both very grateful. And just keep sending her love, keep sending her that positivity, and keep praying for her. She really appreciates it, and it works. We know it works. We've seen little miracles here and there. You guys are the Olive and Rob fam, and we want to make sure that you guys know what's going on, because like I said, you guys are important to us. We care about you, and we're grateful for you, and you know, the amount of love and support that we've seen from you guys is overwhelming. I mean, it's astounding, and we couldn't be more grateful to have such a community like you guys that's just so full of positivity and love, and we want to continue to spread that everywhere that we can. If you have questions, guys, you can DM me on Instagram. We post little updates there as much as we can, so make sure you follow us on there if you're really interested in seeing a little bit more about what's going on and things like that. Hopefully we can get Olivia home soon. At this point, I don't really know. We definitely did not expect it to go like this. That's it for now. Love you guys. Take care, and until next time, we'll see ya. Peace.
We can be friends if you wanna. We could just talk if you wanna. We could hold hands if you wanna. Hey, tell me what you wanna do. We could just laugh if you wanna. Late nights under stars if you wanna.